We dealt with Mitzvah, which is to love your fellow as you love yourself. And we spoke about love, and there's so much more that we could say about love, because sometimes we say that we love something, but what it really means is that we love ourselves, right? If anyone, like, when you felt, I was 12. Right? I thought, like, I mean, but that probably wasn't love. And it probably took me years of marriage to really say, this is love. In the beginning, it might be infatuation, right? When we say, I love fish, well, then why are you eating it? If you love it so much, put it in a, feed it, and put it in a, we have a fish tank now. But every time, like, I'm about to cook fish for Shabbat, I like walk by the fish tank and I feel like this full. Okay, so love. And then we spoke a little bit about jealousy, because that sometimes takes us away from really loving our fellow as we love ourselves. We have this pull, this natural tendency to be jealous. So that was last week. And at the end of last week's class, we had a little voice that said, I have a great question. It was such a good question. I kind of wish you said it during the class, but I'm going to address it now. How could you love someone before you love yourself? That was so spot on, Adrienne, because really, we can't love anyone and we can't love God before we love ourselves. And to love, as we said last week, is to know, to understand. So that is actually the first step in really growing ourselves, is loving ourselves. Now, I can only remember one time in my life that I said the words, I hate myself. I said those words. It wasn't such a long time ago. I'm embarrassed to say. I was in a bad place, right? With a lot of transition and I totally neglected myself, and I was so depleted and had nothing left to give. And I said those words, and it was a gift to me, because it just said, Eve, you've never said those words before. You've never felt that way. Where is that coming from? What do you need to do to love yourself? And I never want to see those words again. Because bring me a siddur or even a machzor, any prayer book. I just want to read a beautiful prayer, since it's kind of morning still. I don't know, depending. Do you want me to grab it? I'm just going to the morning prayers. Any morning, okay? We're going to say the prayers together, okay? I think we all need it, okay? It's the Elokai Neshama. So I'll read it in Hebrew and then I'll translate it. Elokai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tahorahi. Ata Barata, Ata Yitzarta, Ata Nefachta Bi. Ata Neshamra Bikirbi. Ata Atid Lidla Mimeni, Lahachazira Bi La'atid Lavo. Kol Zman Shahanashama Bikirbi, Modeh Ani Lefanecha Adonai Elohai, Ve'Elohei Avotai, Ribon Kol HaMa'asim, Adon Kol HaNeshamot, Baruch Ata Adonai, HaMachazir Neshamot, Lefgarim Metim. My God, the soul that you placed within me is pure. You created it, you fashioned it, you breathed it into me. You safeguard it within me, and eventually you will take it from me and restore it to me in time to come. As long as the soul is within me, I gratefully thank you, God, and the God of my forefathers and foremothers, master of all the works, Lord of all the souls. Blessed are you, God, who restores souls to dead bodies. Amen.
Amen.
This is one of the many beautiful prayers that we say. If we understand that prayer, there is no room for low self-esteem. If we internalize what that means, that God loves us, he cares about us so much so that he breathes life into us lovingly every single day. So this morning, we woke up and we were given a gift, another day. We opened 2 gifts, our eyes, everything is a gift. So yes, it starts with knowing who you are and feeling the love and the embrace. And if we don't feel it, we need to work on that first. So Adrienne, thank you for bringing that up, because I think that is so, so important. And now we could probably carry on. Okay, any questions until now? Love, self-love, it starts with you, then it could go outwards, and then it could go upwards. The 3 relationships that we're always working on. Okay, so let's start our new topic. New topic today is judgment, judging people favorably. And this is a mitzvah in the Torah. This is not just a beautiful thing to do. It's not just a nice thing. This is one of the 613 done et kol ha'adam lekaf zechut. Judge everyone favorably, with grace, with righteousness. Okay, it doesn't say in the Torah, don't judge. We're going to judge. We all judge. That's just human nature. It's only 11 o'clock in the morning, and all of us here have already judged dozens of times, like dozens, maybe hundreds. Okay, right now, everyone look around, look around. Okay, that little look, that 3 seconds of looking was judgment, right? I'm judge. We're judging. Oh, and is she wearing? And oh, what? Is Adrienne wearing shoes? Did she just go to gym? Did she put on some weight? Whatever. We're always we're doing this all. It's ridiculous. Okay. So God is telling us. The Torah is telling. I was just joking. You look fabulous. Oh my gosh, I should look as good as you when I'm like 42 years old. Okay. We're judging. We're always judging. So the Torah doesn't tell us don't judge. Says judge favorably. How do we do that? How do we do that? This is a mitzvah of the mind. It's a thought process. It's not actually something we do in action. It's something we do in our head. If we think something, if we make a judgment in our head, we have sinned. It's much harder. It's actually a very complicated mitzvah, because like, don't you feel like just thoughts just jump in and you're like, hold on a second, like I didn't even do anything, right? Someone said last week that, who was it that said if they think lashon hara, they feel bad. And we spoke about how our thoughts turn to our words, turn to our actions. So yes, we have to be very careful when a thought pops into our mind, because very likely next step is lashon hara. And next step is actually doing something harmful to someone. So it starts, it's a mitzvah of the mind. And it's very, very complicated. Okay, so there are 4 categories of people. Think 4 sons at the Passover Seder. Right? You have the Rasha, you have the one that doesn't know how to act, you have the sorry one, the simple one. Okay, so think like that. Okay, so the Gemara breaks people down into 4 categories similar to the 4 sons. Similar, it's my own comparison. Okay, the 4 categories of people are: we have the Rasha, the evil one; we have the Tzaddik, the righteous one; we have the one that's a Beinoni, the in-between one, like not here, not there. We're not quite sure. Is he like, where does he fall? And then there's the one that we don't know about. Okay, so Joy, you are walking through life. Okay, and you are at a place where you meet someone that you know, this is a righteous person. You have only had the best experiences with her. She's a love, she's a light, she's always looking to help. You see her do something. The Gemara is going to explain how you're supposed to judge her. Now you turn around and you see this guy, you went to college with him, not good guy. Okay, he cheated, he this, he that. Like everyone knew, stay away from him. Not who you want to hang out. A Rasha, an evil person, so to speak. Okay, you have those 2 people. How do we judge him? Then you carry on and you see someone that, nice person. You've seen her here, you've seen her there. You don't know her very well. You're not really sure what to make of her. Okay, so that's a question. And then you go on and you see someone that you've never met before. Nice Jewish person buying apple and honey at the supermarket and he does something that's a little rude and you're like, how do I judge? Okay, because we judge. It's not telling us don't judge, it's telling us judge favorably. So with those 4 categories, we judge every single one differently. That's what the Gemara tells us. So who wants to take a guess? Okay, let's start with the righteous person. You see a righteous person, a tzaddik, just pure, good, has a good reputation, has done so much good for the world. You notice that this person seems to be doing something wrong. How should we judge that person? So for the good. Yeah, like for the good, right? And we'll talk about tools, how we could judge. Like, yeah, he's having a bad day, something might be wrong, maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture. We'll talk about that. Good. But we're gonna judge that person for the good. Now you go to that wicked person, like that guy that was always up to no good, and you see him doing something that looks good. This is where it gets complicated. This is actually like, it kind of blows my mind that the Torah tells us that our obligation to that wicked person is not to judge him for the good. It's not to give him the benefit of the doubt. If we know that his track record is so off, okay, we don't want to validate the way that they're leading their lives. So a wicked person, we are not obligated to judge for the good. We have to be careful because we don't want to fall down that trap. Even if we see a wicked person doing something good, in your mind, your judgment is not, oh, that's so nice. Maybe he did repentance, he did teshuvah. No, the Gemara tells us that we're supposed to say, maybe he has ulterior motives. Maybe he's doing this for another reason. We have to be very careful around wicked people because the people that we hang around with are the people that we become. So with wicked people that we know are wicked, we have to put up some serious boundaries. We're not meant to bend over backwards and give the benefit of the doubt to someone that is known to be an evil person. Okay, so that's very important to know. Now we go to the third person. The third person was someone that's a Benoni. Okay, I don't know about you. Maybe there are some tzaddikim, some righteous people in our midst, but I'm lumping all of us together as Benoni. We're not bad and we're not perfect. We're not these saints. We're normal people. We're not here. We're not there. We try our best. We're Benoni. Okay, Alabai, we should all be Benoni. Like we should. That's not such a bad thing to be. You know, we could strive to be really pious and righteous, but we're all regular people. So for regular people, this is what pertains to us. How are we supposed to judge other regular people? What did he say? For the good. Yes, for the good. So we're kind of like judging upwards, okay? And then in the last category, people that we really don't know, just another fellow Jew doing his thing. How are we supposed to judge? So it's actually interesting. It's a suffix, it's a question, because if we have no context, how are we supposed to make a judgment call? So it could be a wicked person. We don't know. So there's a lot of opinions, like Judaism, like 2 Jews, 3 opinions. So most of the opinions say to judge up. Okay, remember that tool that Elisa Bulow gave us? Whoever was there in my backyard on Rosh Hashanah? What if up, right? We're always like, what if down? What if it's terrible? What if like the whole world is going to come to an end? She's like, what if it's going to be perfect weather? What if we're going to have extra money to spend? Like, what if up, right? We never practice that tool. We're always like thinking worst case scenario. So most of the opinions say to do what if up, like give them the benefit of the doubt, stress we call it the midot hachasidut, like the chesed, like lean on your rachmanos, your mercy, and try to judge favorably. So it's only that very, very interesting category with someone wicked, we're not meant to give them the benefit of the doubt. We have to know that. Even though I would think, right, Lauren, you're nodding your head, what are you thinking? It's almost, is that what you're thinking? Right? Lauren's like, but Lauren, what bothers me is like, I would think Judaism is so much bigger than that. That we should give everyone the benefit of the doubt. that even a wicked person can change their ways. We believe in the power of teshuvah, repentance. Like until the moment someone dies, you could turn everything around. So I struggle. I'm just being honest. I struggle with this law. I find it hard that we are not supposed to give the benefit of the doubt to someone that's wicked. Yeah. Bad. Is bad. Right. Outwardly doing something bad, not embarrassed of doing something bad. Like if someone is doing something bad, but doing it with embarrassment, I would say that's probably a Benoni, an in-between person. Sometimes he's doing good. He knows what's right. He has a strong compass, like moral compass, and he fails and he has successes. Like I think that's a human being. But someone that couldn't care less, just does things that are bad. I guess that's up to interpretation. Yeah. Right? Yes.
Yeah, I just wonder if we really do know anybody that's evil. And like somebody, let's take without naming names, a political person that you think is bad, but maybe he's not so bad, and maybe he's done some good things. And he said, right. Who are you to judge? I mean, unless it's a really evil person, Saddam Hussein or whatever like that. How do you rather?
So you just summed up the whole class. Who are we to judge? So actually, it's not up to us to judge. We just do this. We think, first of all, a lot of our judgment comes from our own low self-esteem. That if we, and it's crazy if you think about it. Do you judge yourself, Marilyn?
All the time.
All the time. How do you judge yourself? Are you compassionate with yourself?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Sometimes are you compassionate with yourself?
Oh, yes.
Like you make a mistake. Right. You think it through in your mind, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But you know what? I was having a hard day. I needed more sleep. You are rationalizing why you messed up. Okay. And you forgive yourself and you move on. Hopefully we're all like strong enough to be forgiving of ourselves. Now, when we have a success, when you make a gorgeous piece of jewelry, where's that success coming from? From you. You're like, I did this. Now, when you mess up, this is psychology, you usually attach your failure to something outside of yourself, to someone or to something else. We do this all the time. Yes, well, here, that was an example. But let's think of another example. Marcy, what field are you in? Teaching. Okay, so you had a great year. You just finished your year and you're thinking to yourself, I did it. Like it was a COVID year. I plowed through. I gave the kids my best. I'm a good teacher, right? You're owning your success. Now, something happened that year that was also really, really hard. I don't know. Maybe there was a fight in your class or a bullying incident. And it kind of nudges on you that it was a great year overall. I got through, I did my best. It was a success. This was my success. But at the same time, there was something that happened under your radar that maybe you could have prevented. But instead of putting it on yourself, you say, it was a really hard class and there were some really troubled kids and the kids they're going crazy with the masks and COVID and it's just such a hard time. It wasn't my fault. Do you understand? We rationalize our failures. We attach them to other things. We all do this. I didn't make this up. We also do it about our children. We're so hard on their peers. Do you guys notice this? It's not only me, right? If something happens in school, we connect it to the peers or to the school or to anything else other than your son. I remember my therapist once said to me, your son doesn't walk on water. Like stop making him out to be such a tzaddik. Like he's a regular teenager. But in my mind, because he's my son, he's a continuation of me. So just like I'm so forgiving of myself and I attach my successes to my own, this is me, I'll do it with my child as well. They're just a continuation of me. So that's just something to be wary of. Like we do this all the time and it's the flip for the people around us. When someone else has success, we say it's because XYZ. It's because, well, yeah, like her mother was like a millionaire and she never had to need for anything in her entire life. She, of course she got that. She's stunning. She was born like that. We don't say it's her success. We say it's something external that brought on the success. And yet, when someone fails, we say that's them. She's such a loser. She really blew it. We do the flip thing. So here we are, Bein Adam Lechavero, love your fellow as you love yourself. We really need to think about how we're judging. If we're judging other people, the flip way that we judge ourselves, we need to work here. This is like dig here. There's work to do. Okay, and this is just natural. Okay, so I want to talk about one of the most powerful tools. And we're going to talk tools because Marta, you kind of got it started. You said, well, what do we do? If how would we judge? And you said, like, well, maybe he's having a bad day. Okay, so that's just like, let's hold on to that because I want to give like maybe 3-4 tools that we could use in judgment because this happens all the time. Like God is always giving us opportunities to work on this muscle. It just so happens all the time. So when we start our momentum trip, right? Dina's going in a couple days. She's going to be on the momentum trip. When we started off the first night of the trip, okay, just raise your hand if you've been. Some of you have been. For those of you that have not been, I'm going to give you a little taster right now so you'll know what you're missing out on, okay? So I actually notebook. I have like a notebook for every day of the trip. So the first day is all about learning and growth. And how do we kick off the trip? Here we are, 7 days that 200 ladies are going to be spending together. Now that could be a recipe for disaster, okay? Because women could get really, what's the word? Catty, nasty, lushy, we say, right? That's like a South African term, like lushy, like lush and hara. But it could be a disaster, right? Your roommate snores, someone's annoying, you don't like the speaker, before you know it, the whole room is like, and the whole trip is a disaster, right? So what we do on that first opening session is we hone it all in. We say, this is not going to be easy. We are all together on this experience, and some of us are homesick, and some of us are exhausted, and some of us are emotional, and we're all going through different things right now. And we give out these bands that say, don't blame, don't complain. Everyone puts it on their wrist, and we kind of give a challenge that the women don't complain. Don't speak badly, don't complain. Instead of saying it, right? What is it like? You just like switch the wrist. Like if you have something to say, like it's funny, like it becomes a thing. Like if you're upset, you just like, like you switch it off and like put it on the other wrist instead of saying the lashon hara. It's brilliant. So we teach about the power of the paradigm shift. That whatever we're going through, whatever we want to say, whatever we're feeling, we have the ability to shift and to change it. So this idea, this power of the paradigm shift was coined, the term was coined by this man, Thomas Kuhn, a mathematician. He says that one little added element can change a whole experience. So I'm going to share some of the stories, some of them, okay, this would be like, you could get up there and say it next week. Okay, so here's some of the stories that we share. The first one, famous story, Stephen Covey, okay, famous author. Stephen Covey writes that he was on a train to New York and it was late at night. He was exhausted. He was just trying to like nod off and rest. And there's this kid that's running around the train, making so much noise, so much tumult. The father is sitting there, not saying a word. And after a while, Stephen just says, this is ridiculous. I just want to rest. So he goes up to the father and he's like, could you please control your child? And the man says, I'm so sorry. I'm so not myself. And he's like, And he's like, my wife, his mother, just passed away. Yeah. And we're just not coping. And I'll try to control it. And Stephen Covey sits back down. And how does he feel? Like he never could have imagined that this guy, that this child, this motherless kid is just doesn't know what to do with I see your tears, right? I mean, it's right. And this happens all the time to us. We don't know what anyone is going through. Everyone is going through a battle that we could never imagine. Right? What did you say? Yeah, that's what I said in the video yesterday. We don't know what happened in chapters 1 and 2, and we don't know where they're going. We don't know what they need. So we cannot pass judgment just by seeing one little incident. Something that I like to share with teenage girls. Everyone's on to like their selfies, right? I run a bat mitzvah class. I say to the girls, imagine someone snaps a picture at you at your worst. Your hair is frizzy. You have a big zit on your cheek that day. You look awful. And they take that picture and they post it all over Instagram, everything. This is like, they post it. They make it into your yearbook picture, right? I mean, the girls are horrified at the thought, right? Because it's so not fair. How could you snap a picture of anyone at their worst, right? It's not fair. But that's what we do when we pass judgment. When we see someone going through something, acting inappropriately, that we think we have no idea what they're going through. I'm going to share one more paradigm shift story. This is also one that I share on the Momentum trip. A story that took place after the Holocaust. It's okay. I just thought it was me. Hold on one second. After the Holocaust, Rabbi Silver, the chaplain, came to Auschwitz, and he tried to bring the inmates to service, to only when it's on silent, but it only rings when it's like my husband. So he's actually, I'm doing behind me, so if everything is okay. No. Julie, do you want to just text Betty that I'm in class? If there's an emergency. So here's the story. Rabbi Silver, an amazing, well-known after the liberation, he saw the inmates' skeletons in their prison outfits, striped uniforms, lying around. Alive in his head. It was a terrible, terrible sight. And what he tried to do was give them together. We're going to celebrate. We're going to rebuild. We're going to have a prayer service. So most of the men wanted something to hold on to. So most of them got up and followed Rabbi Silver. And it was holidays. It was the holidays, and they were having services together. There was one man that stood at the side with his arms crossed. And he was just like, not interested. I don't want to hear. I don't want to be a part of it. No. And Rabbi Silver went up to this man and said, what is it? What? I know everyone here is in so much pain. What's your story? And he said, I don't want to be a part of your prayer services. Okay, no, thank you. He said, well, tell me, what is it? Where is all this hatred coming from? And he said that when he was an inmate in Auschwitz, there was a religious man who had a siddur, a prayer book. And he would use the siddur to extort food out of the inmates. He would say, you want to use my prayer book? That'll be a crust of bread. That'll be a sip of your soup. You'll have, and people were lining up to have a chance to use the siddur. And he said, I want nothing to do with anyone of the book, anyone in prayer. I want nothing to do with it. So Rabbi Silver, he sat with this man and he said to him, why do you choose to focus on the one bad man in your barrack? The man that did the wrong thing. Why not choose to focus on the lineups of people that were waiting to pray, to connect, to sacrifice the little that they had and get an opportunity to hold a siddur? Why not focus on them? He thought about it and he said, you know what? Maybe you're right. I'm going to come with you. He got up, he came with Rabbi Silver to the prayer service. And that man was Simon Wiesenthal, who went on to become such a great light in the Jewish world. How much he's changed the Jewish world. All because of one paradigm shift. There was this one moment, he could have stayed bitter. He had every right to. But what he did was he was able to shift his perspective. So we call this reframing, okay? We see a situation, we have the power in our head to reframe and to change the story, right? So that's what Marcy said, well, maybe he had a bad day. Exactly. We don't know, but we could reframe, we could be creative using all of we're so adventurous in our minds, right? We're always the what if downs. They're like, I mean, what if an alien would come? Like we're crazy creative when it comes to the down. What about going up? What if up? Okay, so it's a very famous story.
Yeah.
It could be. Yeah, I heard it from Adrian Gold.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk tools. Okay, so one of them is the power of the paradigm shift. Okay, the reframing, the ability to reframe. Okay, let's talk humility. Last week we spoke about jealousy as being a negative trait that could take away your love. Humility can build your ability to judge people for the good. Humility is an incredible, incredible trait. Let's talk about humility. Is it possible that we do not know the whole story? Yes. Is it possible that we could be wrong? Yes. Is it possible that we do not understand? Yes. All of those yeses take a little bit of humility. When there's no space for us to be wrong, when we are so sure that what we saw is the only story and it makes sense and there's no space for anyone else, we can't really be in a relationship with anyone or with God without some space for humility, that maybe I just don't get it. So just the fact that we could say, I don't know, that's a good starting space. Okay, in the book of Samuel, here's a quote. Ki ha'adam yireh le'enayim, v'Hashem yireh le'levav. A man only sees outside appearances, but God sees what's in the heart. Okay, which brings us back to judgment. Like, we can't judge because we don't know. We don't see. Only God knows and sees all. He is the only judge. Okay, so it takes a little bit of humility. Here's another example of what we could do. Okay, we could ask ourselves in a situation, do I want to be right or do I want to be close to somebody? Do I want to be right or do I want to have peace? Do I want to be right? No humility, or do I want to leave space for someone else? So here's a little example, because by the way, I'm sorry to say this, but judging your fellow for the good also has to do with your spouse and your children and your mother-in-law and your mother and the people and the relationships that are so close to you that you know them so well that really you think like, I mean, I can't really judge them for the good. I know this person. I know what they're all about. We still have the obligation to judge favorably, right? Even, right, I saw that roll of the eyes, right? We're like, what? Like, we know them like the back of our hands. Some people here have been in relationships for decades and decades. How can we not understand their whole world? Like, how can we leave space for another interpretation when like we feel like we got this, we know it? So here is a great thing to try. So example. My husband and I are a little different. Did you guys notice that already? Just a little. So one, like something that comes up a lot is when we get in the car together and we're driving somewhere together, we're very different drivers. Like I want to pull over and ask for, directions. I'll never ask for directions, even if we're like, literally like no GPS and in the dark and we don't know where we're going. And no, we'll never ask for directions. We'll rather drive around the whole night long rather than ask for directions. Totally. So here is just something that could happen. I don't know. We're going to the library. It's 10 minutes away. We get on the road and I want to say, don't go that way. Go that way. Like, it's so clear. Like, that's like, you're going the wrong way. Like, this is ridiculous. But I don't say anything. Okay, because like I'm in a really good moment. Usually 9 out of 10, I'll say, you're going the wrong way, and it'll turn into a big thing. So he goes the other way, and the craziest thing happens. We get to the library. Okay, we get to the library, and I realize there's more than one way to get to the library. That's it. I mean, mind-blowing, right? So small. There's more ways. Humility. We're so fast in judging that we don't even understand that someone has a different process. They have a different way. It's okay. We'll all get there. We'll make up the 2 minutes of time. Okay. Here is another thing we can think about is if anyone has a teenage daughter, you will understand this. Sometimes when people ask questions, it feels like they're judging us. So all my daughter needs to say to me is, that's it. You're wearing that? And that's it. I'm like running upstairs. I don't have anything to wear and she doesn't like it and it's so dirty and whatever. I don't really care. I really, really don't care. But it kind of for a second makes you feel like, what's wrong? But that's it. Why are you wearing that? Why did you say that? Why did you buy that? Why did you do that? And all of a sudden you feel judged. So in the closest relationships, in our friendships, we want to take away judgment. We want to try as best as we can to remove judgment. We don't always have to be judging. We're not sitting on a judge's bench. That's not who we are. If that's your job, that's what you should do. But in our relationships, judgment takes away our emotional intimacy. It really does damage. So if we want our relationships to be strong, we need to have humility. We need to use the paradigm shift. We need to reframe things. We need to be creative. We need to, here's the next one, look in the mirror. Okay, so when people come late to a meeting, I usually jump ahead and there's a judgment that goes on. Like, does she not value my time? Okay. Have I ever been late to a meeting? Most of you know the answer is yes. And I've only been here for a couple months, but yes, life happens. I've been late. Now, have you ever judged someone on the road? Like someone is double parking in front of you and you're like, what's going on? Have you ever done that with your kid that just had to jump out of the car? And it just like, but it's only gonna be 1 minute. My kid is just jumping out of the car, so you're doing it. We're judging. It's so easy to point fingers. By the way, go like this, point fingers, point fingers, okay? One finger is pointed. How many fingers are pointed back at yourself? 3. When we point fingers, we're usually saying we have this issue. It really is. Think about it. If you have an issue with someone, you really need to think long and hard about what's really bothering you. Maybe this is so close to heart. Just like the jealousy last week, we said like, you're not jealous. I'm not jealous of the president of the United States of America, but I might be jealous of my next door neighbor that's in the same boat, or my sister, as I shared with you last week, because we're so close to home. So ask yourselves why you're judging, and really the tool, look yourself in the mirror, right? Someone interrupted you. Have you ever interrupted somebody? Yes, it happens, right? Someone is having a bad parenting moment in the supermarket. I have a really hard time with this. I'm thinking to myself, they shouldn't even be parents. Like I don't know, like, when you see, especially when you go to like Walmart, like the night before your kid is going to camp and it's like 10 p.m. at night and you like just have to grab 2 things. And you see parents with their 2-year-old kids that are like, I want to go home. And you're just, right, you know what I'm talking about? And you're like, this is child abuse. Like, how they're so tired. But like, they're in their life. They have their situation. We can never judge, by the way, until we get to someone's space. That's what our sages tell us. Al tadin. No, hold on. What is that quote? What is it?
Yesterday, they talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a what?
Pirkei Avot. This is from Pirkei Avot.
Stand in a person's shoes.
Yes. Okay. So here's the quote. Al tadin et havercha. Don't judge your friend. Ad shetagia limkomo. Until you get into their place. Is it possible to ever get into someone's place? Exactly. No. You're never going to be in their financial situation. They have their family situation, their dynamic, their emotional, their mental, their everything, right? An example that Covey uses in her book. She gives an example of like this lawn that's like strewn with garbage and bicycles, and she's thinking to herself, well, I clean up my bicycles every night before I go to sleep, but we could make space for, maybe there's something going on in this household. Maybe we're not seeing the whole picture. Maybe there's some real, maybe, and here's something. Okay, South Africans, you'll know the word shame. Yeah. Okay, so that's like a very, like, you say it a lot. My husband says shame. All my sisters are shame, shame. How do you translate that? It's just like a sorry. Yeah, shame. Yeah. So
shame for certain.
no, it's like, oh, shame. Do you guys understand what the connotation means? So I use this a lot. When empathy, it's just like shame. Like you just feel. It's not really what a shame. It's not what a shame. It's just like you feel. It's a great word. But if someone is bothering me or doing something wrong to me or hurting me, great tool that I use is I say shame. They must be like, I'll make up something. Like they must be so sad. They must feel so insecure. They must be going through such a hard time, right? It's just like go to that shame, like, and you could do this with your loved ones. You could do this with your closest people. Do it with your spouse. You know their ins and outs. You know their childhood. You know their scars, their emotional scars, their work that they need to do. No one knows it more. So if something happens where you're like, that's not okay, you could also, in the same breath, shame. This must be so hard for you. A friend of mine, you hate it? Well, I think in South African, like, lingo, it's not like to be shamed. Oh, no. So let's think of another word. Like, how about oh, right? Like, right? Give me a word. Like, another word, not shame, because shame makes sense if you're like around it. It's a beautiful connotation. It's just like making space. Pity. No, you should never be ashamed. No. I'm not into pitying people. Okay. So here's another tool. How are we doing with the tools? Is anyone taking notes?
Yes.
How many do we have? Like 3, 4? Okay. Here's another one. Assume people's intentions are good. Don't assume people have malicious intentions. People are so self-absorbed that they're not thinking like, I'll give you an example. This is a little personal, but this summer, my teenage son, God bless him, he's going to be here this Shabbat, Shimshi. So look out for a really good looking boy. Oh my gosh, gives me a lot of gray hairs.
I didn't know my son was coming.
Oh, so cute. So Shimshi, I'm having this debate with him. I'm saying, Shimshi, how could you do that? You know that I don't let you do that. And I'm having this like conversation with him, and he says to me with so much honesty, Mom, do you think I was thinking of you before I did it? Right? I was like, what? You're not thinking about your mother all the time when you're with your friends that are drinking and doing right? No, Mom, I wasn't thinking of you. I love you, but I wasn't thinking of you in the moment. So we have to assume also people are not bad. People don't want to hurt us. They might inadvertently hurt us, but usually, and this is also why we go back to not giving the benefit of the doubt to a bad person, because we're talking about Benoni. We're talking about in between, middle of the road people and people that are just struggling like us and better people, right? But we're not putting bad people in the category because that's a whole different category. But regular people, they're good. They're just not sensitive all the time. Okay, so this was a really good mantra that I learned from my friend Jody Bash. This was a Facebook post that I read of hers. She had a picture of a chassid, okay, man, head to toe, hat, black suit, like a jacket down to the floor, like a chassid, curly payas, so many layers of clothing. She lives in Miami. It was in the heat of the summer. And her Facebook post was, I had a hard time understanding why this man was screaming so loud on his cell phone at a bus stop. It bothered her. But then she wrote that her mantra is, this must be hard for them. And she says it dozens of times a day. Because we cannot understand what it's like to hold up that armoire, I don't even know what to call it, that uniform, and do it because you believe in it. And it's a beautiful thing when you can hold on to something that has value and meaning, and you're holding on to your traditions and whatever reasons people do what they do. It must be hard for people. Can we give space for that? I think it's a great mantra. We could say it all the time. Like nothing could bother you anymore, because all you need to say, if it's not shame, which you don't like that word, it must be hard for people. Okay, so that brings me to a bigger topic, which is judging groups of people. We could throw an entire population under the bus, just like that, because we just don't understand. So the example I just used was this chassid. Now, how many times have we judged groups of Jews? Judged them all, lumped them all together, right? I'm an Orthodox Jewish woman. I get judged all the time, right? In fact, 10 years ago, on my first JWRP trip to Israel, this is like 2010, 2011, the leader asked, who here from the participants feels judged? And every single hand went up. Okay, she actually asked, who here feels judged by the Orthodox? Every hand went up. And then the leader asked, and who here of the Orthodox feels judged by the, I don't know what word they use. Is secular even a word? I don't know. Some people don't like that word. Okay. And who of the Orthodox feels judged by the secular movement? And every single one went up. And there was almost like a gasp in the room. Everyone is feeling judged. Okay, we're one Jewish people, we're one nation. We're actually ki'ish echad, b'lev echad, one heart, one soul, one being. We got one Torah, and yet we divide ourselves up in so many shades of Judaism. And we're willing to take a whole sect and throw them under the bus because we don't understand their reasoning, why they do what they do. Think about it. We have been in exile for thousands of years. We have gone to different parts of the world, and we've been influenced by different cultures. We're going to be different. In fact, if you go back to our early teachings, when I first started here, we spoke about how beautiful it is to have so many different flavors of Judaism. We're not all meant to be the same, right? Shivim panim l'Torah. There's 70 ways and facets and faces to understanding Torah. We don't all need to say it's exactly like this. That would be really boring. So unity without uniformity, that it's okay to hold and make space for other people that are not like you. Okay, so we're gonna end in just a few minutes. Let's see if there's any other things I want to share. Okay, here's one more, and then I'll end with a story. Okay, one more thing that we want to hone in on, to bring into our world, is what we call an ayin tova. Ayin is our eyes, tova is good. We want to have a good eye, okay? Now, we could also, the opposite of an ayin tova is an ayin ra'a, a negative eye, right? We all know those people, like we call them like negative Nancy or Debbie Downer. When I first got to, this was really not nice to me. Talk about judgment. I totally blew this one. There was a lady that called me up, never met her before. And she was so negative. Why are you moving to Chicago? It's actually such a bad place. It's this, that. Like she lived her whole life. She was really a negative person, right? And she kept calling me, and I didn't know anyone, so I was like taking the phone calls, right? So, and then after a while, I saved her name as Debbie Downer, right? And eventually I said, that's not nice. And I erased it and I saved, but we don't want to be hanging around negative people, right? Because the people that we hang around are who we become. So we want to have an ayin tova. So there is a blessing that we say, where did I put my vidua? In the morning, we pray for a good eye. Let me find the words. Very easy. Baruch atah Hashem, blessed are you, God. Pokeach ivrim, opens our eyes, helps us see, okay, that was the blessing, who helps us see a broader picture, okay? Who enlightens us, that maybe we could see beneath just the surface, that we could see part of the soul, part of the beauty of the human being that's before us. He's God. Let us see something more beautiful and let us really expand our vision, because just seeing exactly what's in front of us is really nothing. So I'll end with a story, and then we'll just sum everything up. So this is a Jewish legend of a man who visited a town to see if he wanted to move there. So he asks for an appointment with the local rabbi, and he says, Rabbi, tell me about this town. What are the people like? And the rabbi says, well, tell me about the town that you're coming from. What are the people like where you live now? And the man says, oh, I want to get out of there. I want to leave. They're awful. That's why I want to move. They're selfish. They only think about themselves. They're rude. It's a cold place. It's just a horrible experience. Horrible place to live. And the rabbi says, I don't think you're going to like it here either, because the people here are exactly the same. They're rude, they're selfish, they don't think about other people. It's not going to be a good fit for you. It's not going to be good. And he says, thank you so much for your advice. And off he goes. Weeks pass, and someone else comes and says, Rabbi, could you tell me about this community I'm considering joining? So the rabbi asks him the same question. Well, tell me about the people in your community. What are they like? And he says, oh, it's a wonderful community. It's such a shame that I have to move. They're kind, they're honest, they're nice, they're such good people, such a beautiful community. And the rabbi says, well, I think you're going to love this community. And you're going to see the residents are just like where you came from. And the man is thrilled, and he makes his plans to move. And the rabbi's students come to him and they said, we overheard these two conversations and we're so confused. Like, why would you tell one visitor that our community is full of terrible people and the other one that it's full of wonderful people? And the rabbi smiled and explained, the first man only saw negativity in the people of his community. What does that tell me about him? It tells me that he has an ayin ra'ah, a negative eye, a sour eye towards the world. He thinks he will leave his community and find a better one. What he doesn't realize is that if he's going to take his dirty glasses wherever he goes, if he moves here, he'll see these people in the same slant. People are people. How you look at them determines what you see. Okay. So, which reminds me, if anyone knows Ariella Malofsky, who worked in Momentum for a decade, Ariella Malofsky said to me, so she lives in Denver, and we lived there together. And when we were moving from Denver, she actually said to me, Eve, like we were pretty close friends, and she said, Eve, you should just know, when you move, you take yourself with you. So all we have, going back to that original quote that we started this course with, is our character is our only true possession. Who we are, that's what we take with us. That's what we go through this world with. That's what we go into the next world with. Whatever we do with our character, that's all we have. So how do we want to view people? How do we want to see people? How do we want to judge people? Because ultimately, it all comes back to us. So underlying all of this, it does say in the Torah that if you judge someone favorably, God will judge you favorably. So that's just like a nice little cherry on top, a kiss from God. If we work on this, we'll have good judgment. But really, we get so much more out of it in our quality, in our character, in our life, in our attitude, in our happiness, if we go through this world with good judgment for others. We don't need to schlep around all of their garbage and all of their dirt. We don't need to. We can walk through this world in an elevated way. Can I share one more story with you? Okay, this is such a good story. Hold on. Oh, I think I forgot. Okay, I forgot it. I know it off my heart. Even though I thought I brought it. Okay, this is such a good story. A man is looking for a photographer. He calls his good friend. I'm making a bar mitzvah. Could you suggest a photographer? The man says, oh, I have a great friend. He's amazing. You're going to love him. He's reliable. He says, what's his name? Dan Cohen. Okay, great. Give me his number. Hold on a second. Dan Cohen? I heard of him. I actually heard some really bad things about him. I heard that he's irresponsible, that I heard some really bad things. And the friend says, what do you mean? He's amazing. I've used him for my simchas. He's great. He says, well, I heard that he was at a bar mitzvah a few weeks ago where he showed up halfway through the bar mitzvah. Literally, bar mitzvah's half over and in he walks with his equipment. And I even spoke to the guy in the band. It was true. I verified. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I did my research and it was all true. And this guy says, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to call him himself. Calls him up. He says, is it true that you did so-and-so's bar mitzvah last week? He said, yes, it's true. He said, is it true that you came halfway through the bar mitzvah? He said, yeah, it's true. He said, well, how do you know about that? He said, well, I suggested you to be a photographer. And the guy said that he heard such bad things that you came halfway through. And he says, I have to tell you what happened. I was home, I was working, I was so busy. I got a job, I got a call. This man said, it's an emergency. Our photographer didn't show. Please, please drop what you're doing and come and please, we'll do anything. We don't have a photographer and the bar mitzvah's happening.
Oh, we lost the story.
Did you go away?
Maybe we'll get her back. I'll wait. Maybe we can ask her to send us an email with the end of the story or something.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I bet you she doesn't know that her call got dropped. Do you want me to send an email or
I just did in the chat said we lost you, but maybe we could send Julie a email saying, I think it's all recorded.
yes, unless that got cut
Yeah,
off too.
technology.
I'll send Julie and copy Eve on it and see if we can get the
Okay.
end of the story.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, have a good day, everybody.
You too.